Okay, welcome to the fourth tutorial, I think this is, in the VCE English Analysing Argument tutorials. Okay, and what we're going to do today is look at the fourth step that I'm recommending you use as a method to approach the Analysing Argument exam question. Okay, if you recall, in the first three tutorials we've done how to do the readings, the first three readings, so reading 1, reading 2, reading 3, which derives certain information from whatever media forms you're being presented with. And what I propose we do here is then organize those thoughts and ideas into a table. So if you see here, like for example, the first reading derives the issue, the point of view, and the contention. And then if we think about the second reading, we get the key arguments and we get the audience, tone and style in the second reading. And then what we do in the third reading is we look for the evidence and the audience impact which supports each of the arguments. So as we're doing the three readings, what we're really doing as well is completing this table. And this table, by organizing it in such a way, is going to help you organize your thoughts practically into the essay structure that you can then use when you're writing. So what we're going to do is we're going to take all the points that we derive from the first three readings and organize them into this table. So just a second. Okay, so this is the table which I've sort of filled in. So if we look just quickly and run through these, we can see how we've written down the notes that we've made as we've read through the three readings. In terms of the issue, it's about tattoos in society. The author feels annoyed that her rebellious tattoo has lost its meaning as attitudes to tattoos have changed. Okay, we can say the point of view is that tattoos used to be associated with deviants and criminals. They symbolize defiance and rebellion, but they've now become a fashion statement, and they've become more common, so commonality in more recent times. The contention is that tattoos have lost their power as they have become common among all elements of society. Let's just get rid of this, sorry, it's an update. Okay, and then we moved on to the second reading, and in terms of the audience, let's do this in a different color. We gained the idea that it's a blog, so it's social media, there's a number of followers, that's probably young and savvy, given the language choices that we see through the blog. There's a humorous tone at the start, and it sort of shifts to a more academic, authoritative or confident tone when the author presents the historical context of the blog. And then at the end it shifts to being annoyed or irked. Okay, so overall style, we could say it's, blogs tend to be informal media forms. There's some humor, and then there's some critical elements there. Okay, so then we moved on to the next reading, the third and final reading. So the second reading also got the three main arguments, but I'm just going to go link those all together in the final reading. So the argument, the evidence, and the impact, as we started reading down that. Okay, let me try and put that all on one page, just a second. So here we see how we've organized the key things that we pulled out from the media form. For the first argument, tattoos have become common or mainstream. There's changing attitudes to tattoos. The evidence we pulled out there, the title was ironic, the power of ink, because there is no power. The bold sentence at the beginning of the blog was the main contention. We've pulled out the quotes, once a sign versus now, is sort of foreshadowing the historical context of the argument. When the author says everyone has a tattoo, she's making it an inclusive statement. Even me shows authority and experience. Then now a fashion statement is a quote which we can use to show how the tattoo has lost its connotations of deviance and criminality. I see enough ink on suburban housewives, etc., 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 is anecdote and humour, comparing them to prisoners, and then they've now become sexy. So all of those quotes and key points will support the first argument that tattoos have become common or mainstream. In terms of audience, the language choices that she's made and the visuals that she's chosen appeal to the younger readers. For example, and we can pick out some of the language there, mega shopping centre, there's an unattractive image of the suburban housewives, and then newsreaders, sitcom stars, and upmarket shoppers. All this kind of language can appeal to the younger readers of the blog, and it positions the audience to think twice about getting a tattoo, which is the third argument. So all of those things. Right, let's just go down to the second argument. The second argument was that tattoos used to be for deviants and criminals, for the rebellious, but not anymore. The evidence that we picked out, the quote, it was not always so. That was a tonal shift and also a signpost. Once a sign of deviance and criminality is prisoners and slaves. The choice of the language there, historical facts and context, which serves to undermine the fact that tattoos are sexy today. In terms of the visual, the tomoko, you could say it's the duality of tattoos, the symbolism of tattoos, which strengthens the author's argument that tattoos have become meaningless. Before we carry on, at the bottom we'll just go up to here. Historical context of tattoo shows audience symbolic meaning. And then, the terms like prisoner, incarcerated, genocide, those are sort of politically unattractive terms, which is an appeal to the readership's conscience, in terms of the influence to get a tattoo, and it modifies the author's argument, showing that there's some validity over time. Okay, let's just skip to the bottom of that argument on a different page. At the bottom of that argument, the second argument, where they dared to defile their femininity, there's a quote there, that lends experience and identity with the crowd, experience of the author. Angry young things is a quote which we could say gains empathy with the readership, that she understands the desire for independence. The symbol of my rebellion then strengthens the argument that it's become just, something which has become meaningless. Okay, and then let's just skip to the last argument. Okay, and then the last argument that we derived from the reading was that the reader should think twice before getting a tattoo for trivial reasons, and the evidence that we picked out to support that argument was the quote, I find this profoundly annoying, I am stuck. Okay, and she carries on with a real memory of my family's youth. An ornament as ordinary as any other cosmetic quirk. Okay, so we can explain that as the anger of the author of what tattoos have become, and that's a warning to the readership not to do the same thing. The visual that the author has used of the shoulder with a meaningless tattoo serves as a warning to her audience, and then there's obviously the warning of the book title, What I'll Tell My Children. Here we can also make the point of the contrast of tattoos' place in history, and the tomoko use of tattoos versus the fashion statement today, which is strengthening the rationality of the author's argument that tattoos have tragically lost their meaning. So again, that's influencing the audience, or positioning the audience not to get a meaningless tattoo like a cosmetic quirk, and there's the quote there. And then just finally, remember we picked out that there was some assonance, ornament, ordinary and other, and also the alliterative cosmetic quirk, and those techniques are used to bring emphasis to whatever is being stated. In this case, the change in tattoo status in modern history. Okay, so hopefully this tutorial has shown you, as we are doing the 3 readings, we're completing this table, and by completing this table, we're gaining the evidence and the audience positioning to support the arguments which we've derived in the 2nd reading. And now what we do is we come to write the essay out in the final step, and that's going to be the subject of the final tutorial. Okay, thank you.